Welcome to another episode of the Most Serious Podcast, and truly feels very special because a veteran in general in the world and on the Most Serious Podcast returns. Thank you so much, Cristina Zenato. It's always a pleasure to see you talk and to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
back.
for having me back.
I think, Christina, you're one of the very few people who mostly would have a very different response to a question like what's up or what you did recently, because most people would say that I went on a vacation or I just finished an assignment on the job or something like that. And a usual response in your life could be very different from what most people's life could be.
It could, or it could be the same thing. I could say I just finished an assignment on the job. The difference, I guess, it's the job.
Yeah.
However, I just came back from somewhat of a vacation. So here I am. I was on a TV show in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and to go on the TV show in Germany, I end up kind of like extending the stay with my husband in Europe. So we just finished a little visit, a family visit, and this like fun TV show. The TV show was kind of interesting. It's unbelievable. Kaum zu
Oh,
glauben is called. And it's a show where the host or celebrities, the German celebrities, have a minute each to ask you like a series of questions and have to figure it out. What is it that you do for a living?
that must
And
have been tricky.
it was very interesting. It was a lot of fun. I can disclose how it went. It's going to air in September, so I can say that I was on it, but I cannot disclose how the entire episode went. But I met quite a lot of interesting people, including someone that does toe wrestling for a living.
Wow.
I know. And then most recently, before we left, we were working on removing hooks from a specific shark. We have one of our we call it the new girl. She hasn't got a name yet, but she starts showing up on the dive with one hook and then two hooks and then three hooks on one side and then four hooks and then five hooks. And although she showed up on the dive, she was very shy. She would not come into the interaction, which is very unusual. Most sharks within one or two dives, they're coming into the interaction. And so we took some time aside
Yeah.
specifically for her, went out just for her, and did about almost a 2 hour dive, and were able to remove three out of the five hooks. So
That's
that we
nice.
laughed a little bit more relaxed and a little bit happier about it. She looked almost like a porcupine at that point.
Wow.
So we're very happy we're able to remove that. The next one is we're coming out of July 4th weekend,
Yeah.
which is a big
Celebratory.
holiday.
Celebratory
Yes, but
occasion.
a lot of people go out on the ocean, right? And they go fishing for what they define as fun. And so we're going to go on the wake of that. We had July 4th weekend and July 10th, which is Bahamas Independence Day. Lots of boaters, lots of fun. We're going to go ahead and try to remove the hooks left behind, but those that went out and had some quote unquote fun.
Christina, there's a very out of curiosity, I want to ask this to you. And, many people really talk to you a lot on the process of the work that you do, which is, removing these hooks from sharks' teeth. And it just sounds unreal whenever I say it. I still can't digest it that you do that job. But okay. But I really want to understand who's the culprit here. So I have a hard time understanding, is it like organizations, is it general population who's just ignorant of this fact, is it specific groups, or like how do we solve this problem like as a structural solve?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So the culprit are the sharks, right?
Okay.
The sharks will respond to the natural trigger, which is a fish on the hook. It's an injured fish. It starts shaking, vibrating. It's basically sending out a message saying, I'm hurt, I'm dying, I'm bleeding. And the nature says, hey, shark, go and clear that out. Right?
Mm.
So the shark's job is to clear out the weakest links in nature. Some sharks at the higher level, for example, just when an animal is isolated and slow, or some sharks more at the core level of a fish struggling. So it depends on obviously on the species of sharks, but traditionally it's the shark being a shark, right? They respond to a trigger. So you injure a fish, the shark's response to that trigger. Who is injuring the fish is obviously either the spearfisher, or in this case with hooks is the fishers. Now the fishers come in all shapes and form. You could have industrial fishers, right? Some of it in the Bahamas. Luckily, we don't have like long lining. However, you can have poachers, right? So fishers that go out, although the law says don't do this, they still do it. And so they're breaking the law. So some of the hooks come from that kind of environment. Some is what are defined as recreational or sport fishers. That means these are the people that are going out for fishing for their personal fulfillment,
Personal activity.
enjoyment,
Yeah.
recreational activity. Obviously not something that I think it's an enjoyment. Maybe they go out to fish to procure themselves some fresh fish, but not out of necessity.
Yeah.
Right, so they'll fish the fish, they'll take it home, they'll put it on the grill, and but it's not that they're lacking the means of actually finding a regular food in a food store. Right? There is in the traditional fishers, the one that go out and catch the fish to then sell, and they make a living out of that. So these are all the culprits that come in. How do we manage that? It's very difficult. Now, related to the group of sharks that I'm in, it will be as simple as do not fish so close to that area. And then unfortunately, sometimes I go out diving, there's fishers, not only, like not even 100 feet away. And then so even the captain of my boat, who is a former fisher, he'll go and say, hey guys, can
This is
you
not
move?
yeah.
This is not the right area. Because even if you're trying to capture the fish, chances are you will not capture. The shark is going to eat it before you haul the fish back on board. So there's a lot of factors that go in, and that's the reason why you'll find out that when I talk about removing hooks from sharks, you'll never find me really directly being upset with fishers in general.
Yeah.
Right now, there factions where I am against. Yes. Do I want to try to keep the conversation open? And so I don't want fishers to feel that I'm against them. I just want
Yeah.
them to understand that when I see hooks left behind by whomever, I'm going to remove them to make the life of sharks better. Then it's up to them to decide whatever they want to do. One of the mindset that I found wrong, incorrect, especially within parts of Florida, which I'm very close to, is a lot of fishers act as if the fish belongs to them first. And I heard this in political conversations about shark conservation, where even politicians say, well, there's too many sharks taking my fish. And it's just like,
What?
it's not your fish.
Yeah.
It's the fish. Traditionally will be primarily for the sharks. Then yes, the humans take sustenance from fishing, but it's not strictly for humans. So I think there's a lot also mindset that needs to be addressed. You kind of like open a can of worm or Pandora's box, call it whatever. It's a huge conversation, and it has so many ramifications, and it's just so loaded in a way.
Yeah.
I think the first step will be to understand that maybe it's a shared space, that we have the option to go out there, that we have the option to go fishing. The sharks is the only way that they can survive and live. So once we shift the mindset, we can also decide sometimes to do it, sometimes not to do it. If you come in the local communities, you'll find out that they're actually more in tune with understanding that if a shark show up while they're spearing or fishing, they'll move. They'll simply move. They'll go, yeah, okay, shark show up, I'm going to move.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
I think I really like your stance in this still, Christina, and that you come from a lens that even though you don't pass judgment on the fact as a blanket statement that fishing or this activity is right or wrong, and that's a personal choice that the moral code of that person or that organization decides, but you still show up and you say that, okay boss, I'm still going to do my duty or my purpose which I've committed to, and I'm going to be true to that. And sometimes me as a 24-year-old now, I feel, were you, and I know I've had this conversation with you before, and you've always had an affinity to uh, not just see, I'd say, because you told me in the first conversation that you grew up around a lot of insects and snakes and a lot of that rainforest environment as well. So how do people really filter out the noise and see what my true calling is as you move ahead in life and as you keep doing business as usual every day? What's that one step closer to my purpose every day? What's the route to that?
Oh my goodness. If I go back to when I was 24, I think I was as, in a certain way, as uncertain, as confused as you are. That I actually didn't do what I did thinking,
Hmm.
oh, in 30 years' time, I'm going to be this person or I'm going to say these things. But the rule that I always follow personally was when I woke up in the morning,
Yeah.
most of the time, not always, that is part of life, but I look forward to my day. What I actually realized is there was a lot of people that surrounded me that were looking forward to the weekend. They were looking forward to when school was finished. They were looking forward to when the work is done. They were looking forward to the pension. And through, luckily, I guess, some negative circumstances in
Yeah.
my life, some losses of these people that were like, oh, in 10 years' time, I will finally do this. And within a week, they were gone to a car accident, to a scuba diving accident. It made me realize that I was looking forward to my day. I look forward to doing what I do. Right. It scares a lot of people. I had friends reaching out to me going, but you don't have a pension plan.
Hmm.
You don't have this plan. And I'm like, no, I don't. Is it scary now at age of 53, almost 54? Sometimes it is. But again, even now, I do not want to, for example, give up doing what I do to prepare for when I'm going to have to give up doing what I do. I explain.
Hmm.
So a lot of people
Yeah,
say,
I see
oh,
your
you should
point.
prepare for when you turn 70. Maybe you can go with the rhythm you're going at 54. But in order to prepare to do that, I will have to step out of the water. There are things that I can do to prepare for that. Writing a book, become better of a speaker, doing all these things. But I still enjoy going in the water. I still enjoy teaching. I still enjoy being out in the ocean. So do I want to walk out of the water to prepare for when I'm going to have to be out of the water? Or
Hmm.
do I want to stay in the water and let life evolve and see what comes? Because maybe it won't come.
Yeah.
And it's not being a pessimist, it's being a realist. But I think the biggest thing you need to do is wake up today, for the most part, looking forward to what you're going to do today. Were you looking forward to having this podcast this morning or this
Yeah.
afternoon for you? Yes. So is that a motivational? Yes. Okay. Do you still have to do all these other things in order for you to do the podcast? Absolutely. However, if you keep at it, maybe one day your podcast will be the way you move forward in life. And then eventually somebody's going to go, oh, lucky you.
Yeah.
But they will now see the 24 to 34 years, right, that you have put into doing this that motivated your day.
Yeah.
I think the calling, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. The gut feeling that makes you do this does not feel right.
Hmm.
but this is what everybody tells me I should do. How many times I hear that, how many messages I receive all through my social media platforms of, I want to be you, I want to do what you do, how do I do what you do? And unfortunately, I have to answer, this is 31 years in the making. You're 24, you can't do what I do.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry. I'm a
that's true.
full cave rebreather, course director, instructor, trainer, blah, blah, that gets to do all these things. 31 years in the making. It's still evolving. We're still working on it.
Wow,
But what
that
you can do is follow your heart, follow your gut feeling. I'm serious. Obviously, do you need to prepare? Absolutely. Right? But if you follow what really fuels your heart, then studying for it, then doing the things around it that you don't like, become an easier task. You asked me earlier on when we were off recording,
yeah.
how do I get up every morning to do a podcast at 5:30 in the morning? It's like, I'm up. That is my time of the day. Because I actually enjoy this. I enjoy this conversation. I enjoy sharing this. This is part of my paying it forward. It doesn't weigh on me to wake up this early in the morning so that I can do this and then go and do the other part of my work. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. And Christina, the one calculation I was very like in my head trying to do, but then I reached out for my calculator was you said 31 years in the making. And what immediately stuck in my head, and you said, waking up looking forward to my day. You know how many days that is, how many mornings that is? That is 11,315 mornings of you waking up every day and deciding to do this. That's 11,315 times you've woken up and done this. And now that has led to here. And that,
Decided
yeah, man.
11,000 times I decided this is what I want to do. Now,
Yeah.
does it come with doubts? Does it come with dark mornings? Does it come with, I'm Italian, walking around the apartment in a certain way, going, that's it, I'm done with this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would be lying if I said that every morning I wake up and there's like butterflies and rainbows and unicorns and flowers, dripping down like the emojis that the phone gives you.
Yeah.
There are moments of doubts. There are moments of frustration. There are moments of darkness. Some are brought on by life. Some are brought on by personal moments. Mood swings, circumstances that don't go right, days that don't go right. We just had like the worst day ever. What is that? 2 days ago? Not the worst day ever. It was a bad day. It just started wrong and it kept going wrong. And I give you an example. I was just like, all right, let's go and do this. And then we'll go and record a couple of reels. The moment we went to record the reels, there's a massive thunderstorm come in. So we had to run away from recording the reels. So we come home and then the power went off while we were trying to work with the internet. So now there's no power. While the thunderstorms develops, the dogs are, kind of like panting over. Finally, the thunderstorms goes away. We go out to walk the dogs, and this dog from over 300 yards away barged out of our fence and barged and attacked us and bit one of the dogs. And at some
Oh,
point we came inside the apartment and kind of like, all right, let's close the curtains over this day. Let's start again tomorrow, right? So some of it is also how you take the day. And it was a negative day. And the next morning I was just like, wipe the slate clean. Let's start again with a new day. So failures will come. Rejection will come. And my goodness, how many rejection have I received in my life? People don't see that. People only see the time that I get something, that
yeah.
I end up on an edgier shoot, that I end up
Or you
even
end up on a
removing the hooks,
podium on the stage. Yeah.
or end up on the podium on the stage, and how many times my applications have been denied, how many times my request for a grant grant have been denied? How many times a speaking engagement has been canceled? How many times have somebody said, no, you, we prefer her. No, you, we prefer him. Goodness gracious, the ratio is 20-1.
Yeah.
So the thing is, people sometimes see only, the upbeat part, but they don't see, how many times somebody said, thank you, but no thank you. And so I was like, all right, next door. All right, next project. Or, all right, I'm just going to keep doing this out of my own, for example, money, or out of my own time, because I really believe in this project. Till finally somebody said, hey, wow, this project of yours, this is really cool. I would like to support it. And this just happened last year. I've been working in cave exploration, cave conservation for 25 years. Most of it self-financed, right? I'm talking about going and exploring caves, collecting data, giving the data to protect the caves. This has all been all on the coattails of being a cave instructor, training for cave diving, giving cave diving lessons, being paid for that. So I do that, and then I use my money and my time to do this. And I've been working on a project that then Kevin, my husband, joined a couple of years ago, since 2015. It's a project on a neighboring island that needs to be protected completely. And it's a very expensive project because you have to bring everything there.
Okay.
Compressor, oxygen, tanks of food, drinking water, your gear. So you have to hire the boat to get there, to camp there, to pay someone to stay in their place. It's a huge expedition. We have self-financed that. And then all of a sudden, a client of ours has said, this project of yours, this idea, wanted to protect this entire area, is amazing. I want to be part of it, and I want to help you out. So now we
So
have
funny how life works sometimes.
financially support part of the project. And somebody could go, wow, lucky you. You get to do what you want to do, which is really cave exploration, mapping, going around. I mean, it's the most amazing part, right? And it's financially supported. And it's kind of like, yeah, 25 years later, 25 years of keep doing this, of producing data, of giving results, of having a complete marine protected area created out of personal time and financial investment, because I believe in what it needs to be done, for finally someone to say, I believe in this with you.
Yeah.
And I think that is the difference, is when the failure comes, is not a failure until you decide to give up. But if it's a setback, a rejection, a moment of this is not happening, but you keep at it, maybe slower, obviously. The amount of exploration we were doing in this area, self-finance, was maybe once or twice per year. Now we have 4 expeditions planned for a year, at 10 days per expedition. Why? Because we have more availability, right? But if you keep at it, it's not a failure.
That's so interesting. That's a very different way to look at it. Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, maybe, and this could be a little bit maybe labeling, but you come from a culture that is extremely overachiever. At least what I know of your culture is you are pushed to be the best of best of best, and it shows. To be honest with you, every time I have someone from your background that is a doctor, I'm like, I'm in good hands. I know I'm in good hands. I know maybe it's, call it, what do you call it? It's like labeling or anything like that. But I regard your country as one of the most dedicated and the most achieving. And I cannot imagine the pressure that is behind that. But at what cost? I'm pretty sure there's a cost that sometimes goes beyond fulfilling something that is more personal.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm generalizing. I know that, right?
Yeah. But I think, no, Christina, what you're saying is, I don't disagree to that. And I feel, I feel there's value in a conscious way of just choosing to live your life. I feel people who are not absent in making like decisions in small things as well as big things in life, they just tend to be a little bit more content or a little bit more less regretful of events in their life.
Correct.
And in my humble opinion, sometimes I feel it is also okay to not disagree but commit, something like that, to not have it figured out and to not know what to do next, but still keep moving forward, because what else will you do? So sometimes for me, that's just how you go about it. Like, you don't stop and you just take the next thing, whatever you see around you, pick that problem, solve, and move forward till the time.
It's okay not to have figured it out. Absolutely. And you know what? The problem is, that's the thing. They want you to figure it out. They want you to figure it all out, not at 20. They want you to figure it out at 18 or 19. And, so you start down the path of college, and halfway through college, you're like, well, and it's okay to say, this is not for me. That's the thing. Maybe it is okay to say, I haven't figured it out, or I thought I had figured it out, and now I actually figure it out differently. So don't put you under the pressure to have it all figured out. And you know what? As you're busy figuring it out, life goes bah.
Yeah.
I thought I had all figured out. And then Hurricane Dorian, followed by the pandemic, ensued within 3 months of each other. One completely destroyed the island and the airport, which we're still not having. And the other one absolutely shut down what is my business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had 0 diving customers for almost a year. I had few here on the island, here and there, but we were also for several months locked to within 200 yards of our gate. So we had to make do.
Yeah.
So I had it all figured out, and then I lost it all. Lost it all. I was a manager, director of training with a team, scheduling, this and that, all gone. The company doesn't even scuba dive anymore. But what I did is I followed that morning passion, is what gets me going. What gets me going is cave exploration, being with the sharks. It's like, all right, I lost that. How am I going to get to do this? Luckily, obviously, this came far advancing to my career that my name alone allowed me to build a personal business. But we had to figure it out all over again. Where I'm going to get the tanks, how I'm going to get them filled, which boat am I going to use, what gear, how. And so off I went and started following the burning passion of saying, how do I make this work?
Christina, I also feel like I wanted to ask you this, and I know that you've talked a lot about fear, because whenever there's a subject related to something as powerful as sharks. And I remember you telling me that if in the first episode I labeled sharks as, I think, dangerous or scary, and you were like, don't label them as scary. You're assuming, but they are different creatures. So, but I want to understand is, like, we know that we feel fearful. We know that we feel fear. But interesting exercise to do is, where do you feel this fear in your body? Okay, so that really helps you pinpoint or kind of like narrow down your anxiety to one particular place. But in your experience, so when you go very close to a shark, is it some tingling feeling in that human body, physical like response that you feel as a trigger of fear or something?
Not with sharks. With lightnings, yes, not with sharks. So with sharks, I don't feel it, because I obviously through experience, but also love for them, I see that when I see a shark, I don't feel the same. Now, if I'm in foreign waters and I see a shark that may be like I remember we were in Cocos Island, and there was this tiger shark that somebody said, oh, this tiger sharks have been very intense, has been misbehaving. So when we saw her coming out of the blue, did I pay attention to her? Yes. Did I put myself towards her physically together with Kevin? We're kind of like, hey, we're here. Do not interfere with our territory. We did that, but not out of fear, out of interacting with the animal. Fear for me comes, so when I'm in the field, cave diving, sharks, I honestly do not have fear. I would say more is an heightened sense. Maybe there's an adrenaline kicking in, but there's very much a focus and attention. So even in a cave, for example, in a cave, in a dire situation that I have created, remember, I'm a cave explorer. That means I go where no other person has been before. And so in cave exploration, not in cave diving, we do push the boundaries. We do create problems for ourselves. This is not what the average cave diver does. The average cave diver goes diving where I've been, and I said it's safe to go diving. But the cave explorers, I want to make sure the listener really understand, right? I'm pushing the boundaries. Did I get stuck? Yes, I have done that before, right? Wow. So the moment I get stuck because I push myself into something where sometimes it's easy to get in, and then you turn around, you're like, oh, I can't get out, right? The reaction is stop. And I actually, in some situations, stopped and methodically removed almost every piece of gear that I had on me. The helmet, one tank, then the other tank, sometimes even the fins to be able to slide out of the hole, and then outside of the hole, put everything back on, right? That is not fear. That is focus, adrenaline driven, but not adrenaline that brings you to a panic. I think problem solving. Fear, problem solving. My fear is more when I'm sitting here at home. This is the worst place for me. And my fear manifests in forms of anxiety. That's mine, right? It is anxiety related to some of it brought in by a certain way, the projection of the role that people are giving me and how to fulfill that.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
I do this out of passion. I'm a very passionate person, and sometimes I would like to speak my mind more.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I think, okay, if I do this, that's going to have these kind of consequences. The world out there sometimes is not kind. And so my thing is, do I really want to deal with that?
Okay.
And so sometimes I retract from certain behaviors not to have to deal with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But my fear comes very much in anxiety related to the dry part of my life. The requests, the demands. I receive a lot of emails. A lot of people want something. And then when it's time to say, well, I can give you this, or yes, in order for me to give you this, it costs this much. This is the one that I absolutely hate, the business side of my passion, of saying, yes, however, you need to pay me for my services. And sometimes you get this very aggressive retort. Oh, I can't believe you want to be paid for your services. And that gives me, that is actually where it gives me anxiety. It's really funny. It's just like I had to do a lot of work on saying, no, actually, you need to pay me for my services. It's very different than me train this person for free, or this person, or I'm sorry, but I cannot teach that for free. You need to pay for that. And sometimes there's a very, very aggressive retort. Oh, you're so commercial. Oh, I can't believe you want to be paid. And it's just like, well, somehow I have to make a living. That is actually the most frightening part of my life. I hate those interactions. I've done jobs and a month later I'm still not paid. And I have to constantly say, excuse me, can I get paid? And there's this kind of like, oh, I can't believe you're so demanding. It's like, yeah, I paid for the charter boat a month ago and I still need to get your money for the charter boat that for which I paid money. But that is, for me, is the hardest part to deal with.
Well,
Right, but you would never go to an
yeah,
airplane company and say, hey, fly me first, I'll pay the
just
ticket
free.
in a month's time.
That doesn't, yeah, that's the thing. Like, people fail to correlate like some obvious things to. And Christina, thanks for sharing that. It was I could feel that this is something that you personally feel, and I care about a lot. And sometimes I feel, people who are just so true to their craft and passion, it's just sad for me to realize that, the world kind of doesn't acknowledge that fact. And maybe, one thing that my dad always told me, which when I hear to what you just said, it makes me think about that, is ki the world has been like, for people who the world has been unkind to, or world has been harsh to, it's very unlikely for you to expect them to, speak any other language if they haven't had the chance to stop and realize that they themselves are just used to this. So you have to assume and be slightly more forgiving of that, because I used to think like, why isn't everyone like, positive or just more empathetic? And then you realize the fact that most of the times, and even personally, like you yourself might be ending up doing this, that, we just conform to some biases, and that's why we're not as conscious. But for something that you do, I think it's truly a special craft, and it's something that is just core to earth's sustenance and not just humans. It's an environmental thing. It is much larger in scale. The impact that you have by removing a fishing hook from a shark's teeth is much more amplified than just that shark and just the immediate next thing. Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, maybe some people, for example, the harshness that I have received is what has made me realize that instead I should give back more gentleness. So sometimes being grown up in a harsh environment or being given a harsh attitude can trigger the opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
I have been given some very harsh attitudes and some very harsh judgments, but in the beginning, yes, you're right. I used to answer, especially when I was younger, especially when I was your age, I used to answer maybe a more harsh. But with time, I also realized that what you're saying, yes, they receive harshness, so they're giving out harshness. So I made my mission to try to give out more kindness. Obviously, not until you come and call me names. If you call me names, then you're sometimes off my list or something. But like simple as Instagram, I go around and if I see things that have something positive, and there's a lot of people posting negative, I try to post a positive comment, something encouraging.
Yeah.
Positive words towards someone who maybe is receiving a lot of harshness. And I think some of it was triggered by the harshness I received, which made me question, like, why you're so angry? For example, why you're so angry at me for removing hooks from sharks? The anger that I've received, it's like, I had people say, oh, you'd be better off removing trash from the beach. And it's kind of like, yeah, I do that as well. Right? I also rescue dogs and I do this and I do that. Maybe I don't post about it because sometimes good deeds you do without posting about it because that's what good deeds are. But it was really funny. It's like, oh, like instead of removing hooks from sharks, I bet you never remove a piece of plastic from the beach. And it's kind of like, yes, I have. Right? And every time I go on the beach. So that harshness has made me turn around and say, how do I counteract that? And so I go around on even random accounts and leave positive comments, something uplifting, something say how beautiful this is. And if I found something that I disagree with, I move on. I don't leave anything. It's okay to kind of like ignore negativity. instead of fueling it. And this world is a fueling negativity. I don't know what's going on, but it's just absolutely devastating. Somebody just sent me a little article about this new species of shark, 14 centimeters long, that has been found in the Gulf of, and the entire debate in the comments is not about, oh, this is a shark, it emit ultraviolet light through their gills, and they actually create their own light and the glow in the dark, and it's only for the entire debate of 99% of the comments was Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, you're this, you're that, you're that, you're this, you're that. And all these people, and I'm like, there's a new species of shark. Do we really have to debate on the Gulf of? It's first of all, it's one ocean. Yeah. Never mind, right? If you spread the planet from the Arctic on is one ocean. And it's just like the entire debate overlook the fact that there's a new species of sharks that can create its own bioluminescence reflections, can be glowing in the dark, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it's about a name. Polarization, I think, is the sickness of our decade.
Yeah, well put. I think you've summed it up very nicely. Polarization has led to like such thinking in silos and everyone getting like, too individualistic and too aggressive also about it for some reason. Like we've just become insecure in that own corner of polarized opinions, and then to defend them we get ultra defensive, I feel.
Absolutely. I mean, it's in the old days, in early, you could say I am more like of a conservative or of a more of a liberal, right? But you have to admit that no matter where you tend to be, sometimes somebody else's solution is better than the one that will be more in tune with your beliefs. So sometimes you could say, I'm liberal, but wow, this conservative or this idea from the conservatives actually makes more sense. And in the old days, it used to be that people tended to choose based very much on what they felt was correct to their beliefs. And I may be totally incorrect, and we're going down a dangerous path here, or going politics, so get out and then let's talk about caves and sharks again after this. But I feel sometimes that nowadays people are picking something just because it comes from, well, this is my label of my belief, so I'm just going to pick this even if it doesn't really sit with my belief. But that's the label, and so I'm going to go under the label and support that regardless of how really I feel about it. Polarization, I think, is very much the sickness of our decade. And I don't know if it's going to get better, but it's very much fueled by AI, is very much fueled by algorithm. People start reading about that. I can see, like I sometimes experiment, right? But if you start going into dog rescue, sooner or later, all is going to be about positive stories of dog rescues. But if you go into like the spiral of something negative, it's going to show like that. I was following an account. I followed this body positive images ladies. And they were talking about how the internet is full of like, let's go back to skinny bodies. And I'm like, I haven't seen that. Right? Why? Because I obviously not following that trend as someone who had eating behavioral problems as a youth. I obviously do not want to go down the road of, what's the trend of a body. My body is not a trend. My closet is full of trends. Long skirt, mini skirt, wide pants, skinny pants, crop top, long top. The closet is a trend. Women's body are not a trend. If I'm born voluptuous, I'm voluptuous. If I'm born thin and somewhat flat or without hips, I'm born thin and somewhat flat and without hips. So I don't follow that. So my news feed, my timeline doesn't show that. So for these women who are trying to do body positivity, to say, oh, skin is back on, it's like, well, where did you find that? And obviously there is a something in their mindset that makes them go towards that.
It's just,
And
I
makes
think it's a combined snowball effect. That's how the algorithm like feeds on. It's just a group, small conformist opinion that goes in a bigger snowball. Uh, but Christina, let us now. I think before we end the episode, let me get some quick questions on caves and sharks before you have to
okay,
leave.
let's do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask that last time we talked about, and you mentioned that you've been into caves underwater that are sometimes bigger than football stadiums on land. And number one, I want to ask that have you now, that was 2021, did you find a bigger cave than that in your further expeditions?
2020, no, that was the last time we found more caves in our exploration, but not with those size rooms.
Wow.
But we found more caves for sure. We found more decorated caves. So rather
Decorated
than
as in?
finding decorated to these caves went through the fluctuation of glacial and interglacial periods. So obviously in the last 100,000 years, 150,000 years, in geological time, very young. And so during the glacier period, the sea level dropped up to 420 feet below what it is now.
Oh, okay.
As the sea level drops, these cave tunnels that I'm swimming in right now were dry. And so what happens is rain will hit the ground, which is limestone, become highly acid, clear what's called calcium carbonate.
Okay.
Think about like a digestive pastilles when you have indigestion and you put it in the water and it fizzles out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what it does, it fizzles through the limestone. The
Okay.
water becomes mildly acidic, fizzles the
Okay.
limestone, finds these open spaces and drips sediment called calcite, and it leaves behind stalactites from the ceiling and stalagmites from the
Oh,
bottom.
okay. Those
The
structures, yeah.
decoration, yeah. They're
Yeah.
called flow stones as well when they're in
Okay.
general, because it's a stone that flows because it's created by the dripping of the water. When the glacier period stops and then the sea level comes up through the interglacier period, this is what we are at right now, at the end of an interglacier period. Technically, we're supposed to start a new glacier period. Then the water rises, the decorations stop growing, and that's when, luckily, as a cave diver, I get to swim through them. So that is how we found new decorated rooms. So when rooms were really active, they will create a lot of these flow stones, and there's some amazing ones that we've found that look like enchanted forest. It's just absolutely unbelievable the amount of activity that was in these rooms. So once you understand the geology as a cave diver, you swim through them and you sit there and I like to sit there and try to imagine the sound of the dripping of the water. Drip, drip, bloop, 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 because it kept dripping and dripping. But like the extent of the room and the extent of decorations tells you how active this area was during the glacier period. And it's just absolutely mesmerizing thinking, it's work of art. It's an absolute work of nature and a work of art. They're frozen in time for us to enjoy. Eventually, if we go back to another glacier period, what's going to happen is the sea level will drop again. Some of these decorations, so if you imagine, the decorations is like this vertical. If I
Yeah.
were to cut it in half, it will show like a growth ring, right?
Yeah.
And then you could see when it was underwater
Yeah.
during the interglacier period. Then it
Yeah.
shows another growth ring this way, and it shows when it was underwater again. And now we are like here. So when the water will drop again, it will shows when it was underwater, and then maybe it'll grows again. We have decorations in the cave that have fallen and then new decorations built on top. So it tells me this one has a certain age. This one is obviously
Newer.
younger. Right? So there's a lot actually written in the history of the planet inside the caves. The geological book over the development of the sea levels, of the fluctuation of also the sedimentations, of the movement of the crust. The Bahamas are gifted with being one of the most stable layering plates on the planet. So we haven't had that movement like the Alps in Italy, right? The Alps in Italy is the crunching of Italy,
Yeah.
or my goodness, the Himalayas behind India.
India.
Right? That is the movement that pushed it all up. So if you go in the Dolomites in Italy, you'll find a lot of shells. Well, in the Bahamas, we stayed stable. We don't have earthquakes. It didn't move. So if you can go down 7 miles and find the perfect, correct history of the sedimentation, of the layering, of the
Oh,
birth of the Bahamas, of this part of the planet. It's just
wow.
the
That's so
caves.
cool.
Exactly. So you go swim through the caves, and all of a sudden, hanging off the ceiling, there's chunks of fossilized reef, conch
Wow.
shells, and brain corals. And they give you a correct timeline of things that have happened. And we can go into another a hot topic. You know, a lot of people go, well, I don't believe in climate change,
Hmm.
right? And it's just like, well, I have news for you. Climate change has happened, is happening, and will continue to happen through the history of this planet.
Hmm.
If you want to be correct in your known belief, you can say, I don't believe that humans are affecting climate change.
Hmm.
And that is a total, complete, different conversation to be had. We're not going to touch that. Again, it's very polarized.
Yeah.
But when I see politicians that say, I do not believe in climate change, this is, are you kidding me? We have endured climate change from the moment this planet formed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's carved in the rocks. There's shells in the mountains of Italy. I'm pretty sure there's some in the Himalayas. There's different sedimentations. The caves themselves show you that the sea level went down and up
Went
and
up.
down and up and down and up 3 times. Well, what was that? Oh, well, that's climate change, glacial interglacial. So saying I don't believe in climate change is like one of the most uneducated statements
Yeah.
that anyone, and it's scary when a politician makes a statement like that. Climate change has happened, is happening, and will continue
Will
to
continue to
happen.
happen. Yeah.
You will say, well, humans are not responsible for it. That is a different
Another
topic,
subject. Yeah.
another subject. But saying I don't believe in that is just like, wow, who voted you into the system? Sorry to say, but politicians that have these blanket statements are absolutely ignorant.
No, this in fact, and Christina, the also point is that climate change, the current conception or the perception that you have for that term, because of that labeling, people are now ignorant of the fact. Just take a step back and really understand what it means. What do those two words mean? Then you might just drop your guard for a second and really think about what's happening. I think that has just gone.
I mean, so we had 5 mass extinctions on this planet caused by whatever natural causes, right? So that has not caused change. We talk about how the dinosaur got extinct because of the giant cloud that obscured the sun. Isn't that change?
Change.
And so that is the issue. Yes, the climate change has become this heated, polarized conversation, which in the end makes people nitpick on that subject, same as it's we found a shark in a gulf of, well, let's focus on the naming of the gulf. And it's kind of like people, the new species of shark completely ignored in the comments. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Climate change has become so polarized that instead of saying, yeah, things are changing, things are happening, You can say, well, we have no control over it. Okay. We have no control over fixing it. Okay. What are you going to do about the people?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about the cities? What are you going to do about these events, drastic events that are happening? You know, it's like, I don't know if it exists, but like, the ostrich with a head in the sand. Sometimes
Yeah.
I feel that
When
is
they
the
bury
issue.
when you don't want to confront that problem, you just buy into a ideal to stick away from it.
So there is, and then that is a problem. It's polarized to the point that people like nitpick onto the words and don't realize it's going to like half of California burn down.
Yeah.
2/3 of Europe is in a heat wave. Texas just had like a flash flood. And you can say, well, those always has happened. It's like, okay, absolutely. So you don't want to confront it from a environmental, geological point of view, geographical point of view. How are you going to confront it from a humanistic point of view?
Yeah. The people point of view.
The
That's
people point
true.
of view. But you have to confront it from a point of view.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, by polarizing those two words, instead of finding for solutions, they basically make us fight over, I believe in it or I don't believe in it. And meanwhile, like life, right? You said, oh, we're going to plan on life. What should I plan for life? I'm like, life happens while you're busy planning for
Planning
it.
it.
So everybody's sitting there. I believe in this. I don't believe in this. I believe in this. I believe in this. Meanwhile, it's happening.
Yeah. Just
And
look
as a
back
cave
and it's
diver,
past.
as a cave diver, I see carved in rocks. We have caves, dry caves in the Bahamas that have like the shape of the waves.
Oh wow. That
Where the
must be so
waves
beautiful.
carved because the sea level was 20 feet above what it is now. So here's the other one, right? The traditional meltdown and freezing of the water has a start at the level that we're now. By carved in rocks in the Bahamas, which is not a very old country, or only 150 million years old. We started from about 300 million years ago. We're about 150 million years old. So we came out after Pangea opened up. There is proof that in the last 150 million years, actually the sea level went 20 feet above what it is now.
Oh,
It's
okay.
carved in rocks yet again. So my question is, okay, you don't believe in that, but it's
This is
showing.
happening.
What are we going to do if the planet decides to cycle on a 20-foot higher sea level than it is now? With parts of Europe already below sea level, Netherlands, parts of Denmark, where they've built Japan, where they've
Yeah.
built like dunes where the city is below sea level. So,
Infrastructurally, that is like ignoring that problem that might come up in the future.
correct. By polarizing on two words and making people discuss certain things rather than really focusing on the real issue.
Christina, you never fail to amaze with the amount of. I think it's two things. It's your intelligence and your humor as well. Because for some things, I felt that you have a strong opinion, and the way you present it as well comes now. see see exactly what I was talking about. But it comes across in such a funny, in such a warm way that it feels very easy to talk to you, even though, and I must give you this compliment that you are
Thank
certainly
you.
a very accomplished person. You are certainly a historical figure, according to me and according to many people. What you've done for humanity and for Earth in general deserves a lot of respect, and I am very grateful that you sat and talked to us. And the audience always seems to derive a lot of insights when you talk about these stories on caves and through sharks. But beautiful listening to you today as well, and thank you so much for sparing time.
Yeah, maybe we need to censor some of this conversation.
Maybe do we?
And that's the thing. We roamed from sharks and caves. We really didn't talk much about sharks. We
Yeah.
didn't really talk about, well, we talked a little bit more about caves, but that is the thing, right? We roamed into everything else because we are everything else.
Yeah.
Right. I'm really glad that we're roamed into everything else, because we are, instead of like constricting ourselves into the label of cave explorers, a shark, or a hook remover, is, well, I am that human. I am the human
Yeah.
that has the fears and the failures, but also sometimes the strong opinions and sometimes different views to share with, which should bring more people into the same conversation,
Yeah.
into maybe stopping and thinking into the broader. But I do believe that maybe going into this small, tight environments like caves, right? I have a ceiling and a bottom and walls and all of that, has allowed me to actually expand my views.
That should be on a t-shirt. I think you should make some merch, and that quote should be on a t-shirt. But yeah,
Very much,
thank you.
right? You're
Yeah.
stuck between a rock and a hard place, and all of a sudden there's something that makes your brain going, but wait a minute, why is this here? And your brain just really realizes how much there is beyond sometimes our perceptions and our understanding. And
Yep.
so maybe the final invite is, in our world, is maybe it's time. We have so much to our availability:
Yeah.
internet, Google, conversations, podcasts, reaching out with an email, a message, a question. It is a time to open our minds more. It is the time to interact more. I can remember, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if it was Gandhi or the Dalai Lama, and I do apologize for saying, when they said, we have more machines to do our house chores, but we have less time for the family. We
Yeah.
have more ways of communicating, but we have less interconnectivity with people. We have faster ways of moving between one place and the other, and yet we have less time for ourselves. And it's so true. So true. And maybe it is time to embrace what we have created.
Yeah.
Phones, Zoom
Reflection.
calls, but to connect, to
Yeah.
discuss, to have an open conversation, to have, in a certain way, this is intergenerational conversation. I'm old enough to be your mom. I am.
Yep.
Our age gap is bigger than the age gap between my mom and I, because my mom is only 21 years older than I am. I am 30 years older than you are.
Yeah.
But here we are, and we need more of that. We need more kindness, more conversation, more openness.
Yeah.
Through what we have created, because we have these beautiful tools.
Yeah, it's just using them for a purpose, like, and who better to who better to lead us through that journey than you, Cristina. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing those thoughts. I hope you have another of those 11,318 days, did we count? Morning that you
Yes, we
have.
counted.
I hope we started off this morning well as well. But superb talking to you. Thank you so much, Cristina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.